In constructing an episode such as this, I'm applying my personal opinion as to what stage of life is the optimal time to appreciate each book on the list. I'll keep in mind things like, will reading this too soon doom the reading experience, and what age is too young to appreciate the read. I also approach this with an eye on work that, while considered an adult read, is accessible and acceptable for young audiences and may be of great value to their journey as readers and human beings. The first category, not really for young readers, is the category that I'm going to lump myself into: adult professionals who've lived a lot of life. I'm arbitrarily going to call this the 40 and up category. Yes, you can read these at age 25, age 30, etc., but please just play along. To start off the lived a lot of life category, I'm going to tag the book that I'm currently reading, and that is Gravity's Rainbow for 35-year-olds. I'm much older than 35, but I don't think that you need to wait so long. I'm currently reading this, and I acknowledge that I'm probably not the right audience for it. I do think that you want to have read a lot before taking this on. There are a multitude of characters, adult and extreme content, and a narrative that wanders all over the place. The most prevalent focus in the story is the high-tech V-2 rockets that the Germans are bombing London with at the end of World War II, and the uncanny link that the rocket attacks have with the occurrence of certain biological stimulations evoked in the book's main character, Tyrone Slothrop. I don't think that there's much more that can shock me in this world, and because of some of the more graphic and vulgar elements of the book, I think that's an outlook that you want to have arrived at before consuming this Thomas Pynchon novel. For 32-year-olds and up, I'm suggesting on your 32nd birthday, you read Samuel R. Delany's absolutely phenomenal masterpiece, Dhalgren. Yes, 32 is chosen at random. I hope you've caught on to what I'm doing with the ages now, presenting it tongue-in-cheek rather than a line in the sand. I've read Dhalgren 3 times now and will absolutely read it again. This is my desert island book. I do not think I will ever tire of reading this. The setting of fictional Midwest city Bologna and its unusual vibe and characteristics, and the rich and captivating cast of characters that inhabit this post-disaster setting, themes of found family and self-exploration, resonates with me more now, having been an adult for several decades, than it did when I was younger with fewer experiences and less awareness of the world. If I had the responsibilities of a publisher, I'd probably be more likely to give you folks a head up on frequent graphic sex scenes, some of which certain readers are probably going to have difficulty with. Our next category is recent postgraduates. If you're 28 and you recently finished grad school with an advanced degree in physics or quantum mechanics and you love science fiction, allow me to introduce you to Greg Egan's literary catalog: Permutation City, Schild's Ladder, Dykronauts, Diaspora, Incandescence, Quarantine, and the short story compilations Axiomatic and Oceanic, and more. You'll find full reviews and or synopses of all of these all over my channel. These are great science fiction reads with overwhelming doses of quantum physics and hard science. Enjoy. Let's keep going with college graduates. Having children old enough to enjoy many of the most popular science fiction books and books that I love inspired me to film this episode. This is in no way intending to be a definitive statement on age appropriateness of the books or to label books as YA reads versus adult fiction. I'm mindful about tempering my enthusiasm and rushing anybody into these gems. Pick up a copy of Isaac Asimov's Foundation trilogy. 10-year-olds can read this and be awed by the spectacle of the future and distant planets with very easy to read prose and not deep characters. 50-year-olds can be blown away by the scope of Asimov's brilliant ideas and imagination. I'm specifically tailoring this recommendation to the collegiate or recent grad, as I think that's when it's most appreciated for what Asimov delivers with his science of psychohistory, and weighing or balancing the new science or mathematics with sociology, history, and statistics, and applying it to the weight and inertia of galaxy-wide events and the predictive elements inherent. Asimov explores this new field, psychohistory, establishing an encyclopedic foundation to host the knowledge and history of the galaxy that will survive the predicted fall of the Galactic Empire and shepherd the strategies to reduce the period of time that the Dark Ages encompass before a new prosperous empire can emerge. I do think that reading and enjoying the book too soon will rob the audience of what could be a potentially life-changing read, especially for those who might not circle back for a reread. Waiting too long to read this doesn't really come with any risk, but getting to this sooner rather than later can ignite a passion for science fiction reading in a young reader. 19 years old is as good a time as any, and maybe even the best time for readers to crack open Margaret Atwood's The Handmaid's Tale, leaning into the stereotype that young minds are impressionable. I like the idea of impressioning those minds with the warnings present in this Atwood classic. Handmaid's Tale presents a future religious dystopia in which women are subjugated and suffer. I think the impact of the warnings are going to be best received by a mature audience during their formative years. There is emotional and physical violence that may be understood by younger readers, but I also think that they can wait on this one for when they maybe have more developed tools for processing it. For this same age group, I'm assigning George Orwell's 1984 and Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. I don't really have a problem with other teens reading Brave New World, but I don't want to be on record recommending to minors a book that does have a multi-person sex scene. So for 18-year-olds, of the most popular dystopian warning novels, I find Brave New World to be the one that has the most potential power because of how much I think that it can resonate with any audience and clearly plant the seeds of questioning authority, the status quo, contentment, and social structures. Brave New World puts all of these in its crosshairs and is highly accessible. Along with parental guidance, I do think that this is also a great read for 15 and 16-year-olds. Orwell's 1984, likewise, offers a resonant warning about the surveillance state, and I think that the high school upperclassmen or college freshmen are best prepared for our current reality. Reading this early with a young and mature mind, might 16, 28, and 55-year-olds get just as much or more out of it? Yeah, of course. 18 is also the sweet spot for Ender's Game. 12-year-olds can read, relate to Ender Wiggin, a bullied child who's sent off to battle school in space, and greatly enjoy this. 40-year-olds can read this and love it and empathize with this child upon whose shoulder the survival of humanity rests. 30-year-olds likewise can appreciate Ender's superior intellect and cunning as the most brilliant strategist at battle school, unaware of the shameful scheming of his superiors. I've selected 18 as the sweet spot because I see the potential for this to be a life-changing book for young readers. And like Shelley's Frankenstein that I'll talk about in a little bit, this has the ability to plant the seeds of empathy in a young reader. As a reader who loves this novel and sees the impact in my own life, I resist the urge to thrill young minds with the story before they are at the prime age and maturity for some of its messages to hit home. Repeat disclaimer, I'm not suggesting a young adult label for any of the next books on this list. These are clearly mostly adult novels that I do believe can be enjoyed and appreciated by younger readers. Not all readers are the same, and if these books aren't a hit, I don't expect the miss at a young age to prevent the reader from revisiting them in the future. I'm not a fan of pushing any reading materials on children in an aggressive way. Instead, I present this as a resource with suggestions that readers might find helpful. I think a 16-year-old will really like Andy Weir's The Martian. The science is solid, and I think that the mature teenager will connect and not be put off by it. This is a survival story close to home, as the astronaut left to die on Mars, assumed missing or dead, has to rely on his wits and work the problem attitude to save his butt. This combination of real science and solid suspense will entertain this age group. Thinking deeply about how we consider others is important at any age, maybe I'm arbitrarily selecting age 15 for an introduction to Mary Shelley's classic, Frankenstein. I like this age because I think that kids this age are likely to confront real-world examples and also be aware of them. In Frankenstein, a scientist using human body parts assembles a pseudo-human body and using science brings it to life. The scientist observing this creation and how unusual and disturbing it is rejects the monster. The trauma and the death that follows stems from this rejection, the judgment of others, and the monster's desire to be loved and accepted. As much as I think that older readers may appreciate Shelley's solid prose and literary accomplishment, I want this book in front of teenage readers for its potential to plant the seeds of empathy in their developing minds. I also trust a reader to visit this again as an adult and get additional things from it. 14 years old is a great age to start Dune. While I think an appreciation of the full Dune series and its potential to impact will be stronger among an adult audience, the first book of this series, the classic Dune, will be a phenomenal reading experience for some teenagers, being of similar age to main character Paul Atreides, whose family moves to Arrakis where his father will assume control of the desert planet, most coveted for the spice melange, holds great promise for a magical reading experience. Because I believe that the story has that magical potential, I think younger readers will be compelled to revisit the story and find additional nuance, leading to an even deeper eventual experience. Paul's journey across the desert, the interaction with the desert-dwelling blue-eyed Fremen, the mysterious and powerful women, the Bene Gesserit, and the danger of the enormous sandworms will dazzle these readers. Most people I know who love Dune and list it as a gateway drug to science fiction discovered this book between the ages of 12 and 14. 13 years old may seem a bit young, but I think it's a great time to read Arthur C. Clarke's Rendezvous with Rama. This is not necessarily going to be for the same reader that another book I will mention, Ready Player One, appeals to, but for many, this is a gateway into that thing that great science fiction writers do: make us curious and entranced by the wonder of space, first contact, and technology far beyond that of our own world. In Rama, a mysterious ship enters our solar system, and a crew is sent to investigate it. Readers younger and much older than 13 can and will enjoy this as well, but I have no hesitation introducing this at age 13. I also find no reason to hesitate in introducing James S.A. Corey's Leviathan Wakes at this age. This will be a much more action-packed adventure than Rendezvous with Rama, and the greater presence of general politics in the story is a nice setup for eventual reads of other science fiction with deeper political themes. The storytelling of the ragtag crew of the Rocinante and the politics of Earth, Mars, and the asteroid belt, presented very straightforward, is a perfect match for young readers who have maybe graduated early from titles typically suggested for their age group. If this isn't a fit for the young reader, it's an easy enough one to come back to and revisit later for a second shot. 11 years old is the best time to read Ready Player One. Full disclosure, I'm one of those parents that does not filter strongly for adult themes. This has adult language and brief allusions to sexuality. I don't believe either to be threatening to young readers, so I don't caution for it. My son read this book starting at age 10 or 11, and it's nearly the only thing that he wants to read. It has opened the door for him to read things like The Hunger Games, Ender's Game, and a lot of manga. This is the perfect bridge for kids who play a lot of video games, as there's a lot of crossover. In Ready Player One, people escape the day-to-day of their dystopian world by putting on their VR goggles and their haptic suits, transporting them to the virtual reality world of the Oasis. Littered with nostalgic 80s references, adult readers will be likewise sucked in. The 11 or 12-year-old reader is most likely to be dazzled by the Oasis and the created avatars that will go on quests to find 3 hidden keys and Easter eggs in order to win a contest that has control and ownership of the Oasis as its prize. The experience is akin to reading a video game. Very cool. 10 years old is the sweet spot, in my opinion, for Robert A. Heinlein's Have Spacesuit Will Travel. Of course, 9-ish-year-olds can enjoy this, and so can 60-year-olds, but let's pretend for a minute that I have an agenda. I'm placing this in the category of science fiction books that might breed a love of science fiction in young readers. Sci-fi elements that make this a winner for young readers are the teenage high school student protagonist with a curiosity about space and science and a go-get-em attitude, winning an old spacesuit in a contest that he enters because he wants to travel in space and new worlds, aliens, and alien abduction. The amount of real and real-feeling science in this is perfect for a young reader, and Heinlein's storytelling is sure to captivate readers of all ages. Thank you for watching. I'm Michael Everts, and this is Fit to be Read.